I've always found it really interesting how someone can just look better at parkour than someone else. Even if two people were doing the exact same parkour line, one of them might just look better. Why is that? In today's video, we're going to explore style in parkour. Now, there are a lot of athletes we could talk about when it comes to style, but we're going to focus on one athlete in particular, and that is Keelan Ryan. I noticed with Keelan that he really cares about how his runs look. And I mean, we all do to some degree. If you land a jump and you're wobbling and you're throwing your arms around, you'll probably do it again. But Keelan seems to really focus on it in a way that I haven't really seen before. So today we're driving 2 hours to the middle of nowhere, all the way to go and meet up with Keelan at the Motus Projects headquarters in Godhurst. The Motus Projects is a very iconic parkour team, and very recently they opened what they call the workshop. And this is where Keelan spends most of his time, doing parkour, editing videos, and interestingly, designing clothing. Hello!
Hello! How you doing?
Ooh, baby!
Like a museum of parkour.
I would like to point out, it's not a museum of parkour, it's a parkive.
But before we continue, it's important to describe what we mean by stylish movement. Now, I realise I'm giving myself a very hard task here because style is completely subjective. But I think one of the things that's really important is connective moves. Connective moves are the moves you decide to do between parts of the line. Often the stronger focus on these connective moves, the more satisfying a run looks. Another thing that I think makes stylish moves, and this is kind of a recent one, is taking normal flips and adding a bit of steez to it. So that might be just taking a backflip and doing it off axis. Or maybe doing that flip off axis and grabbing your leg in a weird way. Grabs these days have become very popular in the world of parkour. Lots of athletes do them and they can look quite stylish. But a pretty OG American athlete called corydemeyers was kind of doing these grabs long before they got really popular. And I don't think many people gave him credit for it. I guess Corey was just a little bit ahead of his time. The next thing is obviously flip repertoire. If you can do lots of different flips, then you're gonna have more options in your lines. They're all pretty obvious things. There's one more thing that I think is arguably the most important, and that is working with momentum and looking in control of yourself.
What were you going to show me?
The trailing leg is perfectly placed throughout the entire thing to just go bum 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 bum.
Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying.
In this 180 line that Keelan does, you can see something quite interesting. He focused on the placement of his back leg so that he could continue the momentum of that through the run, and thus it looked very clean and controlled. If you think about an athlete like Valtteri from Ferrari, his movement looks so good because everything moves perfectly into the next thing. There's no stop-startiness, there's no like weirdness with his arms. It all looks perfectly efficient and just clean. Before we go any further, this video is brought to you by the Ridge wallet. It's light, it's sleek, and industrial. It doesn't fold or awkwardly bulge in your pocket, and it seriously changed my whole pocket situation. I never really considered it before. Most people are still using wallets that were designed in the 90s, carrying around receipts, pictures of their ex, and expired gift cards, in a completely unorganized mess. It's got room for cash at the front and it holds up to a total of 12 cards. There are over 30 different colors to choose from, including carbon fiber and burnt titanium. On top of that, the Ridge wallet is made from super durable material. So durable, in fact, that they actually offer you a lifetime warranty, meaning that you could buy one wallet and be sorted for the rest of your life. So if you want to get 10% off yours with free worldwide shipping and returns, head over to ridge.com/Jimmy the Giant and use the code Jimmy the Giant. Anyway, back to the video. Now, Keelan is an incredible athlete. I remember first seeing him in the old school like Brewman videos. When I first saw him in Brewman, he was known for doing these really big movements like roof gaps, flip gaps, etc. But over time, his movement changed.
Definitely fell in love with that adrenaline. I think everyone does for a bit. That definitely led to me destroying my ankle. I was just messing around off in front of a camera as a joke, like dancing, and went to chuck a double cork because I thought it'd be funny, and just under-rotated it and like had a full thickness tear.
Yeah.
I think that kind of just led to trying to train in a different way. Made me focus on less impact, which then, you know, you use spots differently kind of naturally.
Now we'll get into Keelan and his actual parkour more in a moment. But one thing about parkour style that is really important is fashion. the way you dress. And I found it interesting that Keelan was drawn to working at the Motus Projects. The workshop is this really cool creative space. It has this upstairs office where the guys can print their own clothes, work on videos, and record the Motus podcast.
Hello Patreons, if you can see this, the camera is flashing, so hopefully we're good.
And downstairs where they keep all of their stock and even have a bit of a parkour park. And Keelan explained to me that his interest in clothing actually kind of ties into his style of parkour, as he likes to wear clothes that complement his movement. But it turns out trying to use manufacturers to design clothes for parkour isn't that easy.
Okay, so this is what we were kind of going off, right?
Not.
So this is kind of what we wanted to go off,
Yeah,
shape-wise. And they come back telling us that they've copied them. Why is the length the same here and it goes like that? And it changes everything when you wear it. Like, you're making this video about parkour looking good in some cases, and I think this really matters as well. If you're more comfortable wearing something, then you're most likely going to feel better moving in it. If I'm wearing something I'm really not liking, sometimes I just have a weird day.
The more I think about it, the athletes who I think are the most stylish in terms of movement, they dress in a way that complements the way they move. If you take benjcave or Josh Blake, both of these athletes are very stylish, but you can tell they also have a real interest in clothing.
I think there's two aspects. There's like, this will be very loud.
Whoa!
I think there's the aspect of feeling comfortable within what you wear, and I think that's more of like a subconscious thing. And then I think there is the aesthetic of the viewer watching it. If somebody's not wearing clothes that suit their proportions,
Yeah.
for example, Keelan has really high hips.
It's obviously like an acquired thing, but like now I'm cutting my shirts, but really like my hips actually are here. So now when I stick a jump and my t-shirt or hoodie is dragging over my arse, like I just don't like how it looks.
That's so interesting.
So
man.
then like cutting stuff, even though I like how it looks, it's like now when I land, my t-shirt feels like it's at the right part of my body where it's bending. It's things that,
No, it's fascinating. So you're making and designing clothes that like, literally look good when you do parkour.
yeah, kind of, but then like this is different for everyone's got a different body, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So like,
The body type of a freerunner has a massive implication on how stylish their parkour looks. A comparison you can make is Daniel Ilabaka and Tim Sheaf. Every now and then you would see these two train together in videos. And in one video in particular, you would see them doing the same lines in a kids park. And you would see Daniel Ilabaka kind of leading the way and Tim following. And to me, these clips really show the contrast in body type. Daniel just looked elegant and flowy and just everything seamlessly moved into the next thing. Whereas Tim just looks slightly more clunky and a little bit less flowy. Tim being more muscly and bulky, when he would try to do these kind of lines, they would never look as good as Danny Ilabaka. But that's not to say Tim didn't have style. When Tim would do runs that would complement what he was good at, upper body stuff, so handstands and things like that, they looked really cool. I mean, that's why it was popular. It looked good. And it's almost like there's a bit of playing to your strengths. Certain things might match certain people's bodies, and each body is completely unique. And likewise, some things might just not look good for certain people. And that isn't to say don't do movement because it doesn't look as good when you do it. Obviously, just do what is fun. But when we're trying to work out what makes stylish movement, I think this is a key point. But anyway, that's enough talking about style. Myself, Keelan, Giles, and Marks went out for a training session. And I went out specifically to focus on what a session looks like when style in your parkour is the objective. As soon as we started training, I started to notice what we were just talking about. Keelan and Joe have considerably different body types. Keelan is quite slim and Joe is very muscly and strong. And there is a difference in how they move. Joe has this kind of powerful look, like everything looks really strong and explosive, whereas Keelan leans more to like an elegant style. But the interesting thing is both of them look good. Like, I love how Joe moves and I love how Keelan moves. And I think part of it is that they move in a way that works with their natural abilities.
Add it up.
It was really interesting watching Keelan work out this line. The spot had tons of walls, but Keelan just focused on these two, and he was slowly putting the pieces together to come up with something very creative. Okay, alright.
no, because I felt that. I need to stop.
What didn't you like about that one?
When I I just landed and I felt my whole body go like.
Divine. I see a little smile poking through. That was very
He
nice.
didn't catch it from the front. I had mega duck feet.
After the first line, Keelan moved on to kind of just experimenting. And here's where I noticed something very interesting about Keelan. And I think it taps into why his movement's so interesting to watch. And that is two things. Firstly, Keelan is an incredibly quick learner, and you'll see that in a moment. But then secondly, Keelan is very interested in all types of movement. Like, he kind of flicks between different lines and different styles quite quickly, following what he finds interesting in that moment.
I never see you, Keelan, do many, like, you know, shotgun backflips and stuff like that.
What's a shotgun backflip?
You know when you did that off-axis backflip? It's the same thing, but you just tuck. Yeah, and then grab. Yeah. That's it, man. You just got to hold it.
Such a weird feeling, dude.
That was it. It looks sick.
Thanks for teaching me that. That was you. So.
Oh, Keelan, it looks beautiful, mate.
It was mad seeing how quickly Keelan picked up this trick. And it made me wonder what actually inspires him in parkour.
Oh, they look great.
Do you know the skater Mark Sushu? A few times going out training, I've watched his videos to hype me up to train, because he does. I don't see much in parkour where the run is twisting one way, like a whole run is kind of going in this direction, and then halfway through it kind of goes back on itself.
Here you go, Jimmy. It's as if his top half, his torso, is a gimbal. The top half of his body, the whole time, is facing the wall, and his legs are the only things moving, which I think is so sick.
I think in parkour it's really cool how someone uses a spot, and like the choice of movement is almost better than the difficulty, I think.
I definitely was caught in this thing when I started training, where it was like, if you weren't able to do these massive jumps, you'd kind of write off your movement. You'd think it's not as good. With like stylish movement and using these creative little elements, you can be as interesting to watch as some of the most explosive, powerful athletes.
You could tornado, you could go left foot on and then kick up into the air and almost like tornado kick. Yeah, yeah. It looks wicked.
I'm so hyped, I've literally
That
never done it
looks
before.
sick.
I just learned this, which I was trying when I was younger for so long.
Oh my god, that looks so big.
Oh my god, that was not it, was it? I do like that. I don't think it's that good with parkour just to set your mind on one thing.
No, totally agree.
Just literally let your mind like wander, and if that turns into just tricking, then fair play. Like, follow what's interesting at the time, and you'll probably come back to like your roots of training.
Giles Longley is the brand owner of Motus, and he has a very deep background in filming. So Giles is often tasked with filming Keelan when it comes to big video projects. And I was kind of curious from Giles' perspective, what it's like watching Keelan come up with these lines.
How do you find filming Keelan? What's the process?
Stressful when he hates it.
Nah, I don't really mind it. It's longer than with some athletes, but it's a lot more like development of a line. The funny thing about Keelan though is when he then does a line perfectly, like textbook, he turns around. We've already seen it today. He turns around with like an upset look on his face. Like, I mean, he can just obviously put stuff together where it's like a one bang, so to speak. But the best lines are normally like a complicated puzzle that takes a while to like process and build out.
Yeah, I think I maybe figured it out.
Ooh, let's go, baby!
This strong focus on style clearly helps Keelan to be a more all-round freerunner. His style allows him to approach very minimalist spots and find things that are unique to the architecture.
A lot of people think about this flowy style of movement, they relate it to injury. In this instant, yes, that's why this happened, but a lot of people just like training in this way, and I don't think people should disregard that.
I really want to try and implement this kind of attitude toward parkour in my own training. So Keelan challenged me to try and learn the 540 kick that he learned earlier in the day.
Hello. Oh, hey, buddy. Oh.
I didn't really get to see it like this, and then...
Oh, okay, you take it.
Oh, it feels so weird. Hello. Keelan's trying to teach me how to be steezy.
Go for it.
Oh Alright, so knowing me, it's going to take me a very long time before I'm banging these steezy lines like Keelan does. But I do feel like I came away from that training session with this kind of insight from Keelan, allowing myself to just follow what I find interesting in the moment, and experiment with moves that I'm not comfortable and used to doing. That felt sick. So to try and summarize why some freerunners are more stylish than others is going to be very hard to pin down. But I do think the general rule of thumb is trying to make your parkour look effortless and controlled. If you take the OG freerunner Kai Willis. Now Kai wasn't known for flips, he wasn't a very creative athlete. He was known for doing massive jumps. Every time you would see Kai do a move, it would look effortless and very controlled. And it carried with it its own kind of stylishness. Because he looked so relaxed and controlled, it just looked amazing. And the same can be said for Callum Powell, who's not a creative athlete. He doesn't do flips, he doesn't do stuff like that. But his movement looks great, because there are very few people that make that kind of movement look as effortless and in control as Callum does. But honestly, I think you just kind of have to train for it. Some people do just naturally have more style than others, but I honestly think focusing on it and rewatching your clips, critiquing how you move, is going to go a long way to having style in your movement. Oh, I nearly forgot to mention I've just put out my very first t-shirt with a little inside joke from the Urban Free Flow documentary that I very first put out.
Right, easy.
It'd really mean a lot if you could support me by picking one of them up. Peace.